Did you know you could sponsor Nerd and Tie? That's right, for $20 we'd say your name here and maybe something nice about you. Just go to nerdandtie.com and click on the sponsor information for more information. I said information there twice. Or you can support our legal fund at gofundme.com/nerdandtie. On this episode of Nerd and Tie, we talk about The Last Jedi in our spoiler-free review. Disney is buying Fox. Alita Battle Angel is horrifying just all of us. And a jury rules that Salt Lake Comic-Con violated San Diego Comic-Con's trademark. All this plus the mailbag and some magic here on Nerd and Tie. Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit of holiday magic for y'all. I'm wearing my Santa hat because I'm in the spirit.
Technically wearing my MST3K ugly Christmas sweater. It's just under my sweatshirt.
I'm wearing my Autobot t-shirt, and since I used to always get Transformers for Christmas, I think it counts.
Oh.
And so, for those of you who are unaware of who we are, this is Nerd and Tie, the only podcast on the internet with a dress code. I am Trey Dorn. Joining me, as always, are the splendiferous Nick Izumi.
I am the Last Jedi. Disappointing, I know.
And the centrally located Genproc.
Sup?
And this is it's been kind of a we used to always record on Sundays. Remember that? Remember that world we used to live in?
I know it's been a bad last few months. It's been really bad, you guys.
Busy and hectic, insane.
I mean, I'm glad that at least that Skype appears to be working.
A step up from last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, but hopefully the video is roughly synchronized with YouTube for like the two people who watch the video version versus the hundreds and thousands who listen to the audio version.
Shout out to both of you.
Looking
at you.
So yeah, this is gonna be our last regular episode of the year, isn't it?
Yeah,
because
next time we gotta do our year-end recap.
Yeah, our best and worst of 2017 is gonna be our next episode. So, it's exciting. Now it's the end of the year though, which means Nick is leaving. I don't know. We did.
No, I'm fine.
Audio.
Mike just wanted to leave the room. I didn't even know she was in the room.
Oh.
But turns out she was in the room.
Audio listeners don't know that Nick got out of his chair.
Yeah.
So it's just. But anyways.
Teach your cats how to doorknob.
Jeez.
Come on.
Man. So it's So we're off to a rockin' start here of just like staying on task. Anyways, it's the end of the year, which, to go back to my original segue into our opening story, which means like most recent years, it meant we got Star Wars because we got through the whole year.
Yep.
Yay!
And
Star Wars.
So The Last Jedi obviously came out this week, and I've written a full review on the website full of spoilers. But we're going to talk about it spoiler free on the podcast for those of you who just have been too busy around the holidays to get out there yet. So
like me,
because Ken hasn't seen it, Nick and I have seen it, but Ken hasn't seen it.
It's retail.
We're going to talk about the movie, but in a spoiler-free fashion, which is going to be difficult, but we're going to try and we're going to go for it. If you want to at least use my spoiler-filled thoughts, you can go to the website, and I'm sure that if Nick has time, he'll put something about his in more detail on the internet somewhere. And
I'm actually hoping to record something with a friend this week. So
yeah, and so we'll post that if it's set up soon to the website.
If I get that up.
But so Star Wars: The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson directed it, and it's pretty solid.
I loved this movie.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm like there doesn't seem to be a lot of middle ground, and I'm not going to help that. I am firmly in the love category.
Like, I have criticisms which are in my review, which I can't really go into because it would constitute spoilers. But overall, I thought this was great. I think it is by far the most visual, beautiful Star Wars film ever made.
I can see that.
I'm 100% like, and there's a lot of the visual language. Actually, what Rian Johnson did really well is obviously one of the strongest things on the original trilogy. The two strongest influences were movie serials, and samurai films. And I think what Rian Johnson did very well was borrowing from the visual language of Kurosawa in ways that.
Yes, I agree.
Like, I can't tell you how. Like, they're very specific things that like. But what's interesting is that they are visuals that, even though that there's a lot of heavy Kurosawa influence in the original trilogy, these aren't visual cues that we saw in the original trilogy. So it's like it feels of the fabric of that, without being negative.
I also feel that a large chunk of the third act owes a lot to, like, a lot. And I'm debating if saying that book would narrow things down too much.
Yeah, don't.
But specifically T.H. White's version of this series of events, I feel that it owes a lot to.
Yeah, I think the people who don't like it, I know that there's a lot of anger. Who the randos sending to have a struck from canon? Like, what did they?
Yeah, there was actually a push for that, but
it makes no sense. Well, first off, what it is that I don't think it's a spoiler, especially since it's within his first scene. This is apparent, so I don't think it's to say that the Luke Skywalker we find in this film is a much more cynical, darker character than Luke Skywalker that a lot of us spent growing up with in the EU. You know,
but the extended universe doesn't matter.
I know.
Not
happy with the way that the character being in this mental state, but I think that and that was the hardest thing for me, was just letting myself forget the legends Luke Skywalker and where he is at a later point in his life, and letting me rethink the character based on the events of. We know in Episode 7 that he started a new Jedi Academy and he failed, and Kylo Ren, created Knights of Ren, and they killed a bunch of the other students. We know that from Episode 7, so technically that's an Episode 7 spoiler, but it's been for 2 years. And I think after 2 years, I'm safe to say that.
I'm noticing that from people, and like the Luke thing, and that didn't bother me in the slightest, but I also have no exposure to the EU with Luke in it. Like, I feel bad. One of our listeners actually gave me the first book of the Thrawn trilogy. I haven't read it yet, but I have zero interest in. It's not that I have zero interest, but I don't really care about Luke's Jedi Order and all the stuff around it, and Kyle's stupid actual Star Wars Mary.
They're so bad that the Thrawn trilogy is worth reading.
I'm about to say, there's the Thrawn trilogy, there's a couple Dark Horse comics I really got into, and then I don't feel like I missed much else.
The Kevin J. Anderson stuff is great, and then I could make you a short list of stuff that's actually decent. And I could also make you a list of things to never touch. But there's a reason why Thrawn trilogy is great, and there's a reason why there are elements from that are in canon. Even before Thrawn was introduced into the official canon through Rebels, even during the prequels, Coruscant, or however you're supposed to pronounce it, was created by Timothy Zahn and got introduced into the prequels. So
that's cool.
Yeah. The concept of the city planet had kind of been Lucas's idea, but the name literally comes from Thrawn trilogy.
Okay.
And so it's but I think what happened is so the version of Luke Skywalker in the extended universe is a very pure person, and so what's happened is that effectively Fan and Luke, once you divorce the EU, from the films, you just have the films. Luke Skywalker is not this pure character made of snow. He almost falls to the dark side in the original trilogy.
Yeah.
He's on the edge. And so I think that I
feel like what people want is a boring character. He's a boring, This goes back to my same problem that I have with so many nerds when it comes to this sort of thing, is that they have a shiny image of what their Paragon character should be, and they lose their minds if they're not living up to that.
Yeah. And so like I see, like the petition specifically talks about how they felt that Luke was done a disservice, but I think and this is as specific as I can get, that Luke's personal like character arc in this film is vital to this film and is an amazing character arc. And Mark Hamill is perfect in every way in this film.
I've noticed something in reactions to this movie from people who were very critical of it. And and I'm talking criticism where I can actually almost try to understand where people are coming from, not because they're just racist, sexist, poop.
Right.
With a lot of the critiques I'm hearing are, but I've heard some people try to say that it's a disservice to the original series characters, that everything they worked for got undone with First Order, and that Luke is dated and cynical, and that is a disservice to mythology, because that's not, because that might be how things work in the real world, but in mythology it isn't. To which I have to say to those people, no, you're wrong. Mythology has always been about. Yeah, exactly. Gen's video over here, like, that's what these things are always about. Like, mythology is always about heroes. Like, the idea of the hero being victorious and happily ever after, in a mythological sense, is a very new concept, a very American concept.
Yeah.
If, like, do King Arthur movies always end with Arthur, having a major victory and not doing the end of the story,
To be fair, Merlin.
Okay, Merlin, the TV series, but that was produced by the BBC. So, once again, Americans are afraid to do that ending. They're afraid of that ending where our hero becomes jaded, hurt, gives up on everything, and is eventually forced to confront his treacherous nephew in order to give hope to the next generation.
Yeah.
See what I did there? Some of you see what I did there. Anyway.
So it's why I'm hugely like on board about this film. Like I like, again, like there are a couple of, I've got a couple of, like, all my stuff are nitpicks, like
same.
And actually one of my biggest ones is a problem I have with Empire. Empire's amazing.
I liked this more than 7. I'm going to go so far as to say that there were a lot of things that happened that I wasn't expecting, and it took me off guard in a good way.
So what I'm saying about this is that I'm not going to be able to tell whether I like more than 7 after I see 9. Because
that's fair.
I think that narratively, the way that, like, how this movie hangs is it's the middle chapter, and it's how the issues from this will get resolved in the final trilogy will affect my opinion of it. Like, I don't think I enjoy Empire so much if I didn't know that Han Solo's going to be fine. You know what I mean? So I think that I'm not going to, like, because Episode 7 and Episode 8 are very different films because they're there to serve different tasks. Episode 7 is...
I get that, but I found more enjoyment in this.
Right, no. What I'm saying is that, like, I can totally understand your position. I'm not saying you're wrong to enjoy this more than Episode 7. I'm just saying, for me, I think that from a narrative point of view, in many ways, it's easier to be satisfied with Episode 7 for the same reason why... and the same reason why it's impossible to be satisfied by the Phantom Menace. Because... The story arc is clear, and it's there to serve a specific thing. Like, it's there to introduce specific concepts while having victory at the end. You know what I mean? Like, it's meant to leave. Like, the first episode is meant to introduce the world, and then give you a satisfying chapter at the end, so you feel like excited going forward. As middle chapter is much more about the meat of the story that you're currently telling. And this is definitely meat, and I will, so it's going to depend on the follow through, and if Abrams can pick up what Johnson put down, that's going to affect my learning. I will say that the new film all continue to be better than Lucas's prequels.
Agreed.
And Like, so
I'll say I only have one other critique, and it's something I can say without spoilers. I did kind of feel there were some pacing things that were weird, specifically that I couldn't figure out if the third act was just really stuffed or if the second act was really long. Like, I wasn't sure on that. But
yeah,
other than that,
yeah,
I loved it.
yeah,
Loved it. Loved it. Loved it. Loved it. And I'll be
yeah,
happy to elaborate later.
yeah.
But,
It's really like there's so much stuff that like I want to say, but the mastery of this film, and I think this is the important thing, is that everything that happens in it, there's no unimportant plot detail. You know what I mean? Like, that's the whole thing. Like, you can talk about Episode 7 without spoilers a lot easier, because you can say that, oh, there's Rey, oh, there's Finn, and Finn's a former stormtrooper. Like, it doesn't feel like a spoiler to, even though you meet him as a stormtrooper and see him defect. Like, it doesn't feel like a spoiler to say he's going to defect with the first act. Like, while this film, I feel like that is anything that itself feels like a spoiler. And I think
I agree with that.
And I think that it's important to go in not. I think it's more enjoyable if you go in not knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah, I was thrown for a loop by several things that happened. I was actually surprised.
Because the most spoiler thing I will say is this film is in part about tying expectation. It's very Star Warsy, and well, I will again, and so thinking about what I can mention from the trailer, like the sequence on the salt flats, because that's not snow, it's salt.
That's gorgeous. That was amazing use of visuals.
Oh my god! Like, that whole sequence is just so beautiful. Like, it's go back to this is a visually stunning Star Wars film. I think that this is I will probably always like Empire more. I don't know, probably like, this is actually a really nice place to be where I'm having problems deciding my favorite.
Yeah, I'm going to reassess my chart again.
Like, when there were only so these things, it was easy to say Empire back in the day. You know what I mean? But the fact is that I love this new cast, and all the new cast, like, I love this new cast so much. Like, I
love these new films so much.
But like Adam Driver, Daisy Ridley's performance, John Boyega, forget the actor,
Mark Hamill's performance.
Mark Hamill, Jesus Christ.
Oscar Isaac.
Oscar Isaac is great, but the actress who plays Rose, whose name I can't remember, she's new.
Tran, her last name Tran.
Katie Tran, I think.
Yeah.
But you're correct. She's great. I like her a lot.
Hell of a good movie for Carrie Fisher to leave on.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if I'm still heartbroken that she's gone, but she got to end her career with Star Wars on a good movie, and that's.
Laura Dern's great in this.
I did see that Gary, her dog, went to see film, and his ears perked up every time she was on screen.
Oh, so sad.
And that doesn't make you tear up.
Oh.
Her real daughter had a pretty big part in the movie.
Yeah, no.
Like, for one of the... I mean, she was essentially a glorified extra, but she had a pretty big part, all things considered.
Cool.
Her real-world daughter totally is sporting the cinnamon bun hair. That's how daughter did.
Yeah.
Lord,
yeah.
Very cool.
It's
in episode 7 as well. So if you go back to episode 7, you can see her as a member of the Resistance.
Yeah, but she had a bigger part in this one.
Right, she does. But like, if you're looking for her, you can go look at her character looked like in episode 7.
Very cool.
Yeah, it's just I love the humor.
Some people complain there was too much humor in it. I don't see it. I don't see it at all.
I'm like, have you watched a Star Wars movie? Like, have you seen Empire? Empire is full of jokes. Empire is just full of jokes.
Well, Empire was really poorly received when it first came out too. So maybe.
Yeah, it's Huck.
It's just that again.
I love General Huck's such a great character. Like,
Space Blackadder. I mean that in the best way possible, but he's Space Blackadder. He's so pompous and self-important that he's so easy to play against himself.
The entire opening, the opening scene, like this is like opening scene of the movie involves, and so technically this is a spoiler, but like within the first 5 minutes of the movie, we start with Poe. We should move on, but so go see The Last Jedi. Don't listen to the haze, and it's a complicated film. If you're looking for simple answers, you're not going to find them.
Indeed.
Well, speaking of all of Star Wars, maybe someday we might get an official HD release of the Ultra Trilogy.
Once
thanks
George is
to,
dead.
um, well, in part thanks to the $52 billion deal that went down between Disney and 20th Century Fox.
Yep.
Yep, Disney has acquired most of Fox's assets, including the film studio and most of Hulu. What they have not gotten are the
garbage parts.
Yeah, the broadcast and news arms.
Yeah, so they get most of the cable channels, but not Fox News, not the sports, and not the terrestrial broadcast networks.
So again, the garbage parts.
They just took all the good parts and just.
Well, it's so.
On in.
So by the way, how freaking confusing is talking about a story when it's 20th Century Fox, the studio that is owned by 21st Century Fox, the parent company? Like,
I didn't realize that. That's dumb.
Keeps I will be writing the thing it kept throwing me out when I was supposed to be writing in a specific sentence because 20th Century Fox is the studio. Yeah, so it's Disney already owned 30% of Hulu, and this will give Fox 30%, so they'll have 60% of Hulu. Because it was Hulu, of course, was started as 10% their own thing, and then 30% NBC, 30% Fox, and 30% BC /Disney, which is Disney. So and that's why everybody but CBS's first run shows are there. So the first there's some antitrust issues, and so we don't know if they're going to get challenged.
I'm kind of. A part of me is excited, but the other part of me is like, oh my god, Disney is going to monopolize entertainment in my lifetime.
Well, but it's also that 20th Century Fox. So if you take a look at the big movies, aren't Disney owned. They're really the big the big movies that are not Disney owned have been put out. Most of them have been put out by Fox. I mean, because Universal and Sony did a co-production with Disney for and Warner Brothers is still out there, but Warner Brothers has a big movie, try to have more than a big movie, but really only had one good movie, one success in 2017 when you really think about it.
I saw a great anime macro in relation to this that had the WB logo over Tony Stark's face, and then it's Thanos with Mickey Mouse head on it, but with lines from the Infinity War trailer. Yeah. Fun is rarely something I consider when bringing order to the universe, and dropping 20th Century Fox logo into the gauntlet. I admit this puts a smile on my face.
Yeah, it's this is going to do lots of things. So if you think about it, one of the things that keeps the Fox broadcast networks dramas profitable is the fact that they own their own studio. So they would have to pay as high a cost for the same drama. This is why when Squirrel was on CBS, it cost way more to produce some of the made other cost-cutting stuff, but they saved a ton of money, moved to the CW because the CW is owned by Warner Brothers. So they didn't have to pay the licensing costs for the character when Supergirl moved over to the CW. This is so take that and think about now that they're going to be costs now that Fox broadcast networks are going to have to pay everything. So really, what you're going to see is a dramatic drop in the amount of script programming on Fox.
What about? Does this also mean that Gotham is going to be screwed over? Because that's kind of the rival comic company.
Yeah, but many of us really care if Gotham goes away.
Well, that would be a loss, but Lucifer would be a loss.
Oh, yeah, Lucifer's good.
Yeah, Lucifer's actually a good. That's one of the good DC shows that's not related to Arrow at all.
Yeah, no, it's
and a show that makes me kind of sad. Another show that I kind of wish Constantine could cross over with, because that would be a really logical crossover for him.
I don't know if their versions are quite compatible.
True. I was thinking of characters I enjoyed from Vertigo and how fun it would be to see them together.
It's
But yeah. So Lucifer's probably going to be affected by this.
I don't think they're canceling shows. What I think is that you're going to see less new series. I think shows that are on right now that have existing deals, I think will go away. I think what you'll see is less new shows being launched.
Probably.
Because any new contracts have then negotiated with a separate CEO instead of in-house. While the pre-existing contracts will probably apply the license fees that they're already paying. Also, it's important that we'd have to go and look and see who's actually producing, what studios are actually producing those shows.
Right.
Because Fox does produce everything on network. They just produce a large chunk of it. That's why you'll get CBS studio stuff on other networks and CBS studio stuff on other networks because
I would say Fox Studios did produce stuff from networks though. I was half the controversy I think it was earlier this year, maybe last year, Last Man Standing, an awful show, by the way, but when that got canceled was because Fox wouldn't be footing the bill for it anymore, and they didn't want to keep paying for it.
Well, also though, it's like there's some studios. Sony a lot of television, even though they don't own a network. I can't think of. I don't remember what current shows are on the Sony lot, but Community was Glee. Those were both on the Sony lot. That's why those shows were able to survive, around networks, because the studio was able to shop them. But in any case, I think the funny thing is that, like, the response from Nerd blogs was, "Oh, like Deadpool could cross over with the MCU." No, that's not what's happening. I mean, obviously that could, like, it does merge the IP, and it does mean that pretty much they get everything back. Marvel will have to accept Spider-Man, who did work with the studio that has that, so they're getting a cut of that movie franchise. But, like, this is terrifying conglomeration where a huge chunk of the media we consume are going under one roof. Like, the only reason they're not getting the broadcast arm is because they own ABC. Like,
yeah, this is actually scary, if you ask me.
But are getting FX, and they're getting FX. They're getting they're getting like everything except for the sports networks and Fox News. And I think the new company that's being spun off to run Fox News is an awful thing. But the people who watch are gullible, so it's highly profitable. And then the sports stuff is profitable too, so they're holding on to those. But I don't know. Like, this is actually really kind of scary when you think about it.
So I'm gonna be honest. I'm not jazzed for the idea. As far as like just selfish, dumb Marvel crap.
Yeah.
I'm a-okay with the Avengers being able to fight Doctor Doom. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Because Doctor Doom is Marvel's best villain. Here, said it, because it's true. On the other hand, the X-Men are completely incompatible with the MCU as we have it right now.
They are. They'd have to do a new version of every character. Because Wolverine is effectively done in the X movies.
I'm not even talking like the movies as it stands. I mean, the very concept of the X-Men doesn't effing work. It doesn't even work in the comic very well.
Yeah,
we've established in the MCU, people love superheroes. Why would they prejudice against mutants?
Right, that's the whole thing. Is like X-Men always thought really was its separate unit, like as a separate standalone thing. Like, I think that I always thought it was stupid that everyone's afraid of mutants, but they love Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
What? Everyone's afraid of mutants, but love Captain America. What?
And the other Avengers.
Yeah, who loves Fantastic Four, but is afraid of mutants.
This is the actual Marvel universe.
Right, and it's easy to ignore in the comics because they're just, like, it's just easier to segregate in the. X only works as its own thing, and when you try to grade it with other hero fiction, it's just a frickin' mess. So that's why I don't want X-Men in my MCU. But I wish that was a big problem with the merger.
Right. Yeah, I'm scared.
I'll say this had effect on Disney's online service plans, though, because they're the majority owner of Hulu with Brazil. So they become the majority owner of Hulu, and so
instead of starting their new thing, they should just
what they're talking about is what they're do is well, first off, this solves the problems that where the talks about Disney not letting non-Disney companies create new Marvel shows because FX becomes part of Disney, so Legion's fine, and then Runaway's fine because Hulu is now going to be mostly owned by Disney. But what Disney wants to do is make their new service still planning on rolling out be their family-friendly Disney service. So
Oh, okay, that's fine.
And while their adult programming for the properties they own are going to go to Hulu.
I'll go with that.
I would stay okay with that, but I like being able to stream Gravity Falls and Star Wars: The Forces of Evil when I feel sad.
I love Gravity Falls so much, and they won't tell me the whole thing's not on disc. The only way to watch that whole series is to watch it on Hulu.
That's frustrating.
Like, yeah, I've got Hulu on every device and every screen that I own, but that go away at moments.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the only reason I buy DVDs and Laserdisc. I almost said Laserdisc. I don't have a Laserdisc player. The other reason I Blu-ray to DVDs is because I want to be able to watch it offline. Like, and I trust services not to take things away from me because I haven't. Like, I was once watching a British series on Netflix that my wife and I were like 3/4 of the way through the series, and suddenly it came off and went away.
Yep.
Now, the fact paid for a DVD plan and the show was on disc, so we were able to finish it using DVDs.
But still,
but that illustrates stuff just goes away. And so if I want to Gravity Falls is a show worth owning.
I agree. 100% agree.
I think everybody should own Gravity Falls and watch and live and just exist in it. So that's a little off topic, but
Yeah.
I think it's I'm worried about media agglomeration.
Same.
And
hey, speaking of scary things, though.
What?
Our next story features something absolutely horrifying to look at. So, I'm gonna be honest. With all these American remakes of anime, it's been a pretty painful experience, all things considered. Didn't know it was a trip earlier this year.
Pause this podcast right now. Just do it. Then go find that. Watch it. And
feel the pain we feel.
Like, when I saw this trailer, I was so horrified, it didn't even register with me that there weren't any Asian characters in this trailer.
What the actual F?
Like, I'm going to hold it up for video viewers in my little window, but the CGI eyes are horrific, and this is so, like, James Cameron, who's producing this film and originally was supposed to direct, really wanted this, and so I don't know how much I can blame the director for this, but Jesus Palomino. So I haven't read the manga, but I've watched the anime.
Mm-hmm.
And like they keep trying to justify it as to make her feel not quite human and all that, but I'm like if you watch,
she's got robot arms.
She's not supposed to look unhuman. The whole point is that like not everybody even realizes she's a friggin' robot.
By the way, her robot arms in the trailer gave me some serious body horror stuff. Like,
I'm okay with the body horror part.
I mean, the body horror stuff should be in, like, the source material, yeah, but, like, when I saw that, my stomach lurched.
But you know where the body horror should just be, like, that she's a robot.
Right, yeah. It shouldn't be that she has horrifying anime eyes.
Like, I'm sorry, anime eyes in real life are horrifying. They are terrifying, giant, cupid eyes.
Why we don't do that.
I mean, why? Why? Do not look at me with those eyes. I did not eat that delicious man.
Why, Nanako? Why do you stare at me with your child eyes?
I mean, again, like I was thinking I have to write a whole article of whitewashing of yet another adapted anime film. You know, Ghost in the Shell, Death Note. No, no one cares. Oh, I think it's good that there are.
That came out this year, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Jiminy, Miminy. It was existing.
Oh my God! Like why? They're talking like she's not supposed to look different than everybody else. In like, I would understand it more if they gave everybody the horrifying eyes.
Right? It's supposed to be a Centennial Man type thing.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a spin-virally thing.
That's part of why she's so threatening in the cartoon. Is she just looks like a small rips robots apart horrifyingly. I mean, that's incidentally, you can still get the DVDs of the original anime for like $8 these days.
Yeah, I haven't watched it since the 90s, but I really liked it.
Just like honestly, listeners, just go get that. Again, you can get it for like $8.
It's worth, like, you know, I don't know if it holds up because again, I haven't watched it since the 90s. But like
I watched the first episode like a year ago, and I enjoyed it.
I just can't understand the eyes. They haunt me. Those are the eyes of the damned.
Mm-hmm.
It's really frustrating because again, I actually like the director. I actually like Robert Rodriguez. I think he's a good action director.
Yeah.
I'm really sad that they went down this road, and I think it was idiotic. It's a real shame.
Yeah.
Yep.
God, it's like a nightmare made flesh.
The only good thing I can honestly say about that trailer is that it was still less embarrassing than Ready Player One. Anyway, we
got the Ready Player. Got the Ready Player One. I feel like it's just You know,
There
have you read the
that
book?
that made me cringe. Yeah, there are parts where I cringed reading it. Like it was just so. Like I'm so not looking forward to this because the main character's main merit as a person, this is a plot point, is that he knows more about dumb nerd trivia than anybody else. He just knows more 80s nerd trivia than anyone else. That makes him special.
What?
I'm not crapping you. The premise of the book is like the dude who invented the suit, and he's like, when I played some video game on the Atari 2600, I thought Easter eggs were really effing cool. So I hid an Easter egg inside the mega internet, and if you know enough 80s references, you'll find it, and then you'll get $1 trillion and own the mega internet. And like, oh yeah, that's the actual premise.
Yeah, well, no, I know that's the premise, but
you actually get scenes where like the main character is talking about how, oh yeah, then my avatar drove around in my DeLorean that I got from completing the Back to the Future stages on planet Zemeckis. But that wasn't enough. So I added the Knight Rider lights on front of it and the Ghostbusters logos on the doors.
Like, so I know that there are gonna be some who disagree with you because I know that I just look at these trailers, and I keep looking at, like, I feel like this is a way to score nostalgia by saying, hey, remember that thing? Here's that thing. Hey, remember that thing? Here's that thing.
Like, people kept throwing a trailer at me. They're like, Nick, look, the Gundam's in it. So?
No crap.
Like, I can look at my shelf and see the RX-78 Gundam anytime I like, and it's not to be thrown into a movie because, oh, look, the Gundam.
But, Nick, I thought you clearly didn't know anything about Gundam.
The listeners are privy to my amazing experience working retail. I work in an anime store for the holiday season, and I had a customer tell me that I clearly don't know anything about Gundam. Or their actual phrasing was, I'm clearly not familiar with the franchise. Nope.
How many Gundam were in the room with you?
In this room, there's only like 4 out of box. No, excuse me, 5. But then there's a bunch of the model kits that I moved from my parents' house that I haven't unpacked yet. So
in this room, which implies that there are more in other rooms.
In this room, in my office that I'm in right now. Yes.
He literally has part of a panel, had a slideshow. We cropped Gundams just to the crotch, just the junk, and had Nick identify them. He got every single one right, even the random transformer we threw in.
Yes, I can identify any mobile suit by its crotch. That's my secret, Cap. I know all the robot crotches.
Like, you clearly don't know much about the franchise.
I'm just not there now.
Nope.
Okay, so speaking of crotches.
Oh, hitting it on the segues today.
Oh, so in the ongoing court case that between San Diego Comic-Con and Salt Lake Comic-Con, Con International, and which runs San Diego Comic-Con, of course, claiming that Salt Lake Comic-Con use of Comic-Con violated their trademark. Unfortunately, for Salt Lake Comic-Con and the hundreds of Comic-Cons across the country, the jury sided with Comic-Con International and decided that Salt Lake Comic-Con was in violation of trademark. Salt Lake Comic-Con has said that they were going to appeal the ruling, and to be fair, the jury, while San Diego Comic Search was trying to go after $12 million, the jury only awarded them $20,000. But this could have serious implications for Comic-Cons across the country. You know, so yeah, it's not great. Because Salt Lake Comic-Con, of course, has temporarily rebranded as Salt Lake Comic Convention.
I do not understand.
Okay, so this is the problem. Well, Comic-Con is clearly should be a generic mark. What happened was so really what happened is that Salt Lake Comic-Con did effectively try to infuse San Diego Comic-Con attendees thinking that they were associated, even though they're not. They used a lot of language that alluded to like implying a connection. They literally tarted up a convertible, and with Grego and like photos around San Diego Comic-Con with the Salt Lake Comic-Con car. It's like they were kind of being shifty about it, but the fact is that even though that they were being shifty about it, it still should be generic mark. It literally is just a convention. It's San Diego Comic-Con was far from the first event to use Comic-Con. Technically, their trademark is with the dash, which no one else does because of this. But like, are they gonna? But the fact is that this sets a precedent that that they have been able to defend it, which means they could go after New York Comic-Con. They could go after now, and how does this affect the couple of events that do Comic-Con with as one word instead of two, like Phoenix Comic-Con or Emerald City Comic-Con? There's a lot of stuff, but even like just within California with like Silicon Valley Comic-Con, like literally I could sit here for an hour listing events that like are called something Comic-Con. You know what I mean? Because all it means is comic convention, and SDCC was far from the first one. It's not even their original name. It's so like this is so while Salt Lake Comic-Con aren't really like the rosy protagonists who you'd want to be rooting for, there's a lot of good people this is gonna hurt having this mark established even stronger. So like, and I understand like if I was SDCC, I understand why they're doing it, because they need to strengthen their mark, and when you have a trademark, if you don't defend it, it becomes genericized. But the fact is, this should have never been awarded.
Agreed. 100% agreed.
And so, like, it's just, yeah. In all likelihood, Salt Lake Comic-Con appeal. But I think it's really dangerous for what this could do to other conventions. That it's not good. What do you think?
I don't have much more to say than I just agree with that. Like this seems insane to me.
Same hat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hate it.
Yeah.
That's a feel.
Well, guess what? It's time to go to the mailbag, which means we get to talk about it more in our first Nick.
Oh boy, look at that. Open up the mailbag. More of this. All right, from our Justin Berger, SL Comic Con. While I agree that ruling against SL Comic Con will have some far-reaching negative effects, however, in this instance, I think the ruling is highly justified. Salt Lake Comic Con founder Dan Farr implied in multiple press releases that he came from San Diego to start a new branch of Comic Con in SLC. Their original logo bore a striking resemblance to the San Diego Comic-Con logo, and then Salt Lake Comic-Con proceeded to invite themselves to drive a Salt Lake Comic-Con branded car around the streets of San Diego during San Diego Comic-Con. In any other case, I think San Diego Comic-Con would have lost, because they would not have been able to demonstrate damage or confusion in the market. But in this instance, Salt Lake Comic-Con went out of their way to do just that. So while I'm not a fan of the fallout from this court ruling, I think it's justified. I live in Salt Lake and volunteer for another convention. There we go. For another convention in Utah. I have a personal bias against Dan Farr Productions based on my experience with that other convention.
Yeah. So again,
yeah,
no one's
not really much I can argue with that.
No one's arguing that that Salt Lake Comic-Con didn't do a duty thing, but it still goes back to the fact that it's not a trademark that should have been awarded. Yeah.
Agreed. It scares me.
And I think it's bad for the community. It's bad for lots of things. And this, for the jury, was not about the symbolism. It was not about the you damaged this company. It was about the ownership of the mark.
Right.
And it's clear that in their in the way the jury found, like the damages awarded means that they think that the mark's the important thing, not the confusion. So, yeah, it's
big ball ugly is what it is.
Yep.
Again, read another letter.
So I've got this other letter. It's from Langland. Subject: wow, what a week. Hey there, nerds. So yeah, the title says it all. This has been one hell of a week. That is, of course, the week of December 10th through the 16th, of course, which technically now is last week, but yay, dating the episode.
I mean,
well,
all the
I don't know
episodes have dates, so.
Well, I don't know where to start. I think let's start with Disney because, to be honest, they're the only company I plan to talk about in this letter. So yeah, Disney has bought the Fox movie studio, so that means the X-Men, Fantastic Four, Deadpool, and Silver Surfer, along with other Marvel properties I might have missed, are now back in Disney's hands. Well, this means that all those intellectual properties can now exist in the MCU. I don't know how that will work, honestly, but Marvel Studios will know how to make it work if they choose to go that route. I have a feeling that these characters could go into future MCU movies after the Infinity Wars is done, and they could all coexist the same way the Guardians of the Galaxies has coexisted, minus the galaxy part, but still kind of a similar gist. Next part. I checked out The Last Jedi, and overall it was a good movie. I was disappointed with one thing involving my favorite scene in the movie, but since you guys are opinionated on this matter, you will likely disagree with me, but since that would involve spoilers, I will stay silent. I have a feeling the last movie in this trilogy might actually be an original direction from all the other movies, because I feel this movie kind of made its parallels with both the Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. There's definitely a lot to plot twists and turns, which were okay, but some of them seemed kind of stupid, but that's just me. And I can't say because, spoilers and all. It was still a good movie, and I hope the last movie in this trilogy finishes this trilogy strong. Well, that's all I got. I hope you guys have a happy holiday season. Regardless of the holidays you celebrate, just enjoy it. Have a good one, guys.
Yeah, like we can't argue because, again, any discussion
Yeah.
of that movie
Yeah.
is spoilers. Like it is so hard.
There's literally nothing we can say.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's just amazing.
Sorry.
Oh. All right, so yeah, do you have any other responses to lying on here?
I,
All right,
Nah.
we should move on to the Vomit Hat Steve Challenge. Vomit Hat Steve Challenge is the part of the show where we read a line from a book. Challenge to you, the listener/viewer, is to guess what book it's from. Traditionally, I read the line, but last episode, guest started us on a new book, and again, we'll read the line when we get to it. If you guess what book it is, you get your name included in the Hall of Awesome. The benefits of the Hall of Awesome: we put your name on the website. 2, we read your name aloud on the show. 3, there is no 3. It's a game. All right, so, and Corfan, I know you ventured to guess, but you were wrong. So, the currents of the Hall of Awesome are as follows. Arkham Zero, Renan, Sanichi, McDaniel, Krista, Slithery, Shameless Otaku, The Random Ramblings Band, Corfan, Capito, Cursor, and Lilithosaurus, Paper Godzilla, Cavsy, The Minnesota Librarian, Sean Ord, Keith Shuzo, and Chris Sunset. And now, Genjamin Proc shall present you with...
In the vast pinkish early morning sky, the ball opened up in a huge spectacular display.
If you know what book that's from, go to nerdtie.com/contact, click on the little form and tell us your guess. Or if you have anything else you want to say to us, have us read aloud on the show, or just genuinely talk about, go to nerdtie.com/contact, give it to us. Or you can call us at area code 414-375-0480, and we will play voicemail. Leave a voicemail there, and we will play it on the show. It's super easy if you know how to operate a phone. If you do not know how to operate a phone, please get a parent to teach you how. If you were the show. All right, so... Woo.
indeed.
So we should probably start to pull us to the end of this cul-de-sac that we call life. And...
it's all over now.
I of course, have been trade-worn.
I might be Nick Izumi.
And I'm the Genjaminiest Genjamin.
And remember, you can always follow us on social media on Twitter, Tumblr, and Facebook. We're all Nerd and Tie. That is NERDANDTIE. You can again find us at nerd.com. If you're listening and want to find the video versions, is youtube.com/TRAEGORN, or you can find Nick's video essays at youtube.com/Nickizumi. If you want to support our show financially, you can either sponsor an episode by clicking on sponsor information on nerdandtie.com. You can donate to our legal fund at gofundme.com/nerdandtie, or you can contribute to us all directly. My Patreon is patreon.com/TRAEGORN. Nick's Patreon is patreon.com/Nickizumi, and again has a coffee link, which is coffee/Genjamin. And remember, you can follow all of us on, all the social media as well if you really feel like, if it's in your heart, in your soul, in your mind, somewhere deep down in places that you're afraid to talk about in the middle of the night, except know it's there, clawing, trying to get out. So, again, here's your friend. Play anything that can take an RSS feed. And, Nick, say your catchphrase.
Keep on spocking in the free world.
I think that worked. We're people.
I just learned there's a Pinata Emporium in Chicago, and I kind of really want to go. That
sounds great. I learned that Chumbawamba was doing music until 2012 when they broke up.
These are bonus facts that you got at the end of the episode, listeners. hope you enjoyed it. Stuff.
I get knocked down.